Hello everyone, it's Dark07. Today we are playing again Naya Winota Legends. Okay, so this time we have some slightly different choices. I mean, there are quite a few of them. So the main difference between the last version you could see on my YouTube channel like a week ago is inclusion of a 3 Eomer. So after further testing, this card has been really interesting. And though I still think the previous version it's is really good and it's been performing well, I think the Eomer version is something I really want to further play, test, and upgrade with the new cards as they arrive, as I feel like this could be a perfect version of Enota. I hope in future I get even more reasons to play full playset of Eomer. So far, I decided to go with 3 Eomer, 4 Winota, but more and more, this is beginning to feel like an Eomer deck and not just an Winota deck. So there is also a lot of other synergies and a lot of other cards are really important for this list. Okay, so I just have to mention that it is not the exact list I played in a video. We'll see the gameplay of. So I had two of the Skrull instead of two Frodo Baggins, and I had Bone Crusher Giant on the sideboard, and but that's it. Okay, so I decided that I really want to go with Frodo. I really want to test it. I still haven't played much games with it, but I feel if there's any deck that could benefit from Frodo and the ring taps you mechanic, it's this one. So if you're not going to play it here, you're not going to play it anywhere. And I think the ring taps you mechanic is pretty interesting, and this is one of the ways to make it go full very fast, because there are just a lot of these legendary creatures in this deck, and there are a lot of them are cheap. So you get to play Frodo on turn two, you get the ring temptation mechanic, and in large percentage of situations, you will play the legendary next turn, and you will get the second ring temptation mechanic, um, which then really start making things interesting, because with the second ring tempt you level, you get to draw this card, which is obviously one of the uh, most powerful abilities from that mechanic, but also 3 damage and basically that touch on your creature are also very good. So I think this is a very cool way to try to exploit that mechanic. Okay, so other inclusions in the main are similar to those before, but we have to cut Melita because it doesn't work with Eomer, so I cut some of the pitch elementals, put it on the sideboard, because now we only have two Safis in the main, which help us scam those elementals early. And Melita doesn't work with Eomer because it exiles itself, but Safi works because it sacrifices itself. So to make Eomer working and better in this deck, we're playing 3 Hajar and 3 Boromir. Especially Hajar in this deck can be very good because it can sacrifice itself to give creatures +1 and indestructible. And the +1 can actually be quite relevant. If you have like 3-4 legendary creatures, it can go really aggressive. And you really want to have these creatures in the deck with Eomer, because they allow you to get additional combat phases, and that's the main Eomer strength. So you go to combat, you see how your opponent block, you sack either Boromir, Hajar, or Safi, or your creature just dies with opponent blocking it, like Ragavan or Mary, whatever, and you get additional combat phase, and it can get really tricky for the opponent. So if they choose to block, you get to untap all of them and then attack again. So I just wanted to mention that in previous version I had a Skrull instead of Frodo Baggins again. So, but Skrull was good, but I really I'm interested in trying this Frodo more. So my final choice is to go with Frodo over the Skrull. But Skrull was also decent, and you will see that I directly won the match against the Blue Red Scam thanks to the Skrull. I would probably win it without it, but it made things a lot cooler and interesting. So on the sideboard, we have Umori now because there are no lightning bolts in the main in this variant. So we get to play Umori, and I got to say it has been very, very relevant having Umori as companion. It helps you in the grindy games, and it helps you pitch casting, endurance, force of vigor, post board. It has been very good. Being a 4/5 has also been very quite relevant. It doesn't die to Fury. So I'm really, really happy with Yumori. And it helps you cast Vinotas, Eomers, Furies, a lot of these spells in a deck that cost a lot of mana. So yeah, that is it. And we are going to go through the gameplay and see how it goes. Also, in the video we're going to watch, I had 2 minutes to written, but I decided to switch a second one for the Sokenzen. Sokenzen is one of the best lands in Vinota deck and can really, really help you get those Vinota abilities. Also, we play a lot of legendaries in this deck, so often you're going to be able to channel this for 1 or 2 mana, which is really cool. So that's that. Okay. Let's go to the league and see how it played out. Okay, so if you saw my last night video of Cascade Rockeric Zoo, I got unfortunate to play against in the trophy match. I got unfortunate to play against one of the deck's worst matchups, Living End. And today, with this deck, I was even unluckier. You will see the trophy match was, yeah, it was really, really funny, but also unlucky. We'll see how it went. Okay, so here I was playing against Tron. I had turn 1 Ragavan into turn 2 Spyro, into turn 3 cast the One Ring of the opponent's deck. It doesn't get much better than that. I got to admit that Minas Tirith was just very, very good. Every time I draw it, it would enter the battlefield untapped, and it would often draw me cards. Okay, so I opponent plays the Eugene, the Spirit Dragon, and I sack the Boromir to give everybody the indestructible, and opponent concedes the game. So I think this wasn't because of the Boromir, but it looked kind of funny, as if my opponent thought my creatures are not going to die or something, because they conceded in response to the Boromir ability, but it was more of like they're on 6 and I have their ring drawing me 3 cards next turn. They probably thought that their chances of doing anything is really low, so they conceded. But yeah, okay, so let's check out the next game. Deck is pretty aggressive, have a lot of ways to apply the early pressure. So I start with the Ragavan again. Tron is very popular deck right now, but it's not great against turn 1 Ragavan. Again, I started off with a turn 2 Season Pyro, which is obviously very good, especially in the Vinota deck. You get the 2 elemental tokens a lot of times. So opponent did a lot of stuff obviously there, but I had the force of figure. I decided to kill the Oblivion Stone on my turn, and I didn't have a 4th mana to play the Vinota, but I was able to play the Mary, draw a card from the attack phase, and deal a lot of damage there. Opponent had Ugin again, exiling all my stuff. I went for a Ragvan Dash, putting my opponents to 5. They had the one ring at this point. I just passed the turn, hoping to do something good with the dash again. I killed their Oblivion Stone. I don't know if they were like F6 or something. But I had Ragavan plus Mary, both creatures with haste. They had Warping Veil for the Ragavan, but they didn't have a solution for Mary, so they conceded the game. And yeah, that was easy win against Tron. Let's check. Let's go on to the next game. Okay, so match two. In the match two, I was playing a second. This is a decent hand because I have an opportunity to scam a Fury early if I draw another red card. But here we go playing against another Tron deck. As I mentioned in my previous videos, Tron is among the most popular decks right now on MTGO, so it's no wonder if you play if you see Tron every league you play. So here you go, like 2 games in a row played against Tron. I didn't have a red card there to go for the Fury, so I went for the Boromir instead. Opponent finds the missing Tron piece for the next turn, and I attack for 4 damage, play my Safi, and that's it. So again, opponent goes for the Eugen. But yeah, the exile clause didn't help me much. So I lost all my stuff, and I still didn't have a red card to pitch cast my Fury at least to try to kill the Yugen. So I didn't have much chance here. Now next turn Fury doesn't even kill the Yugen. So and again it's just get rid of it. So I decide to concede and just go for the next game. Playing first, obviously much easier, especially if you have Ragavan, but it's fine without Ragavan. Winnable, as you will see, won 2 matches in a row against Ugin. So that shows that there is definitely a way to win this. I decided to go for the Mary. And I played the Hajar. My opponent finds their missing Urza piece. So if I'm able to go for the Winota next turn, I'm in a pretty good situation. My opponent doesn't have much. They play just a relic and another expedition map. Probably again they have the 8 mana spell in their hand or something like that. I draw the Samut from the Mary ability and get a treasure token. From the Ragavan, I play the Spyro. I get 1 token. I finally find my Winota. Opponent in this situation, they need mass removal. They didn't get mass removal, they just got Ulamog. Ulamog is obviously a strong card, but when you have a Winota, getting 2 abilities next turn, I was able to get my Eomer on the field, and I got another attack phase, finding me Magus of the Moon. So the Eomer is obviously a very strong creature, and this is a very powerful thing, enabling the one-shots. And now with this deck, when you attack with Winota, there is high chance of finding when you hit the Eomer, and you in a lot of situations you will have something to sack either Hajar or Boromir or Safi, and you'll get another combat staff, and this can quickly turn into the lethal, and it mostly does. So that was the game. Let's go on check the game 3 against Tron in match 2. Okay, so let's see how I boarded. We can look at this sideboard for both of my games. I was playing Skrell, as I said, so I boarded Furies and the Skrells, and one Spyro for some artifact enchantment removal cards, and of course Magus of the Moons. I also had the Bone Crushers instead of Solitudes, as I already said in a deck tech. In this variant, so just slight changes of 4 cards, Frodo for the Skrells, and the Solitudes for the Bone Crushers. That's it. Um, I attack with Hajar and then play the Spyro. I think the Spyro is one of the best plays the turn before you play the Winota, and I could choose to like discard the land, but if I had like multiple lands, I would maybe do this. But I had only one, and I really need the guarantee to have the land on the next turn, and I really want to get 2 elemental tokens because of the Winota triggers. And so that is why I choose and discard both of my non-banned cards. I have Force for their turn and still Vinota on my turn, which is a pretty good position for me. Opponent plays the One Ring, but I still have my Vinota abilities, and I'm digging a lot of cards to find Magus of the Moon, and I did find it, which is the most important thing for me at this point. So I got the Magus, I got the Spyro for double redraw. Opponent now has a 5 mana. They play the ring, find another land, and they get to play another one ring, which means 3 additional draws for the opponent. And I don't have a questing beast in my list in this version. But I think this is fine. I just attack with Vinota again. I build my board and put a certain one shot on my board, and I'm just digging for more spells. I have the Boromir now in case they go for something, destroy everything. I have the Boromir. I also have Hajar. I have 2 Magus of the Moon, so even if they kill one, somehow I still have the other. So there is no chance of them ever getting the Tron. I also had the double force in case they go for the ensnaring bridge or something. So again they had protection from the ring, but I attacked with everything just to go through my cards, and I did find a third Magus of the Moon. I also took the Summit. And my opponent draws 2 more cards from the One Ring, but it is pointless. They can't win against this. So, except if they get the Eugene, but they can't cast the Eugene at this point. So, there is no card that can save them, and it's a GG. Okay, so we can now watch match 3. First 2 matches, 2 Tron decks, and the deck performed really well against Tron. Uh, this time I was playing a second again, and I was playing against a scam deck. You will see in this matchup how Skrell won me the game. Opponent was quite surprised, and they discarded Dragon and Spyro from my hand, but I still had a Halfling for turn 1 into turn 2 Samut, which can be pretty good and draw you a lot of cards. So I went for the Samut, uncounterable. Also, by the way, just attack with the first strike Vigilance. Draw me a card. They didn't have a removal. I find another Fury and decide to pitch Fury from my hand to kill their Grief. Unfortunately, opponent also had a Fury, but they didn't at least have the Scam spell. So I was able to just cast my Eomer next turn and go for the attacks. They played Blood Moon, but it was a bit too late. I still had my Halfling, and I was able to cast the Boromir and continue attacking my opponent, which was now on 9 life. I then top deck Winota, which I'm able to cast thanks to my delighted Halfling, and I don't have non-humans at this point. Opponent goes for the Spyro, but draws 2 more cards, but they can do anything about this, and it's a GG. Okay, so again playing second, a lot of playing seconds in this league, which is definitely a lot harder, but still deck performed very well despite that. And I'm very happy with it. All the matchups we played were like really common matchups right now. Played a lot, and you can see this play that happens a lot of times. But still, it's not a reason to forget about Ragavan and not play it. Ragavan is still good. Not every deck is an Orcish Bowmasters, but even if they play the Bowmasters, just think of it as a removal spell. And what is it? What is even better for the Bowmasters? It's how good is it against a seasoned Pyromancer. So uh, having two Bowmasters when someone plays Spyro can be like often game ending. Opponent goes for Totsis and discards Winota, but I have 3 Winotas. They had removal for the second one. I still have a third one, so that's where my hopes are. Opponent this time plays the explosives, which means I play my Winota to force the opponent into killing my tokens, but they also had a fatal push. At least they killed their token too, but then they top decked Grief to Date of the Grief to for my Samut battle. Got the Samut from the top, and opponent decide to jump with the Grief, not let me draw a card. So I just played my Safi too, and now I was in a better position than it looked before. I had opportunity to be back in game. Opponent plays Tatsis, getting rid of my Omori, and they also played Magus of the Moon, but I already had Plains and Forest in game, so I didn't care that much about it. I had my Spyro in the graveyard, so that was my plan for the next turn. Opponent, I go for the. This was this was just my inexperience in playing Skrill. I targeted and I then realized that it just gives a hexproof from the color and um, not really a protection. So that's when I decided to just that's when I decided just to let the Samut die. It was fine trade. So it was a strange position. I kind of knew that they probably have Undying Spell, but I didn't have anything in hand, so it was okay. I then find Eomer, and this is very interesting position. So I go, you'll see, I go for attack with everything. Put my opponents to 4. They didn't block, and as soon as they didn't block, I got to sack the Boromir, and I saw the lethal. And I untapped everything and give Eomer protection from a red, and which means opponent can't block my Eomer, and it's a 5/4. and they can block it with Spyro, which means this is a GG. So opponent made a mistake on a first attack phase, and they were on too high on life, so they probably thought that they can't die. So they let the damage through. It was just three creatures attacking, and but yeah, Boromir got sorry Hajar got the +1 and to my creatures, and then I tapped everything and gave protection for Eomer for lethal. I think this was pretty cool win. Opponent definitely didn't expect this, and maybe if I let them untap do something, they would find something relevant. So it was a pretty good and fun win. Okay, so let's check out the next match. Okay, so usually the usually what I do here, you have obviously a dilemma when you're playing Halfling and the Ragavan in your deck. So I just want to clarify in this situation when I have a Halfling and Ragavan in my starting hand, and I also have a Samut. My decision is to go for the Samut on try to go for the Samut on turn 2 if I can with the lighter halfling, which means not playing Ragavan on 1. But I think in my experience so far this has been a better play. If I didn't draw second land, my only land at the moment was Minas Tirith. So in that situation, I would probably go for the Ragavan turn 1 in hope to play a Minas Tirith untapped on turn 2. And if they kill Ragavan, then it is again fine to play Minas Tirith tapped on turn 2 and just play your Halfling. So I think that was a good plan. But due to my draws, I have made my decisions this way. So opponent plays the stomping ground, kills my halfling, and I think this was a 4-color Rhinos. And this was probably one of the worst hands I ever saw from the 4-color Rhinos. Not hands, but just maybe yeah. So I played my Mary. This is the dream. I really love this. So you attack with Mary and Samut, you get the draw trigger, and then you deal damage with Mary, and then you draw another card. It feels so perfect. I really love this. So I decided to go for the Spyro there. Draw 2, discard 2, get the I was holding a Safi and a Fury all the time, so I can go Fury Scam and kill the Rhinos if they played. But they didn't even have the Rhinos, or I'm not sure what they even had. It looked just so that maybe it was the mana base because they didn't have a mana to cast the outburst. Finally, they go for the Shardless, but I have Safi Scam Fury as already mentioned, which was my plan. My hand was also pretty good, so even if they had like a decent hand, I would probably be able to deal with it. But yeah, this turn I had mana for both. I had mana to both go Safi, scam Fury in, and play my Winota and get 3 triggers, which means GG. And my opponent was tapped out, so that was pretty cool win. But my opponent didn't do much, just tapped a creature, Bone Crusher, then played the Shadow's Agent into Rhinos, and that was a game over for them. Okay, so this time I was playing second, and yeah, okay, so this game was one of the worst Rhino hands I ever saw in my life. That's why I don't play 4 of Mystical Disputes. I think they had all four, all 4 of them in the hand, which is just yeah. I'm not sure what to say about it. Even it just feels so sad. I went, yeah, obviously misclicked here and didn't. I clicked through the attack phase and didn't attack with Samut, so I didn't get the draw card, or I'm not sure what happened, but yeah. Okay. Opponent killed my Safi, probably scared of me scamming the Fury again. They killed my halfling, so at this point I just had 2 mana and basically not being able to hold to attack to cast anything. And I also draw the forest from the top, which doesn't help me a lot because I'm still not able to cast almost anything from my hands. Yeah, I wasn't able to cast anything really. So I was afraid of them um, finally finding the rhinos, but they had just a handful of disputes, which still worked against me because I was also struggling with mana a lot. Yeah, so the double forest hand wasn't really helping me a lot, but it was a okay situation for me. Didn't even if they played the outburst or the shardless, I still had a decent hand at this point, just struggling with mana a bit. Uh, Discarded 2 cards and still I didn't find the land I was looking for, but I had Winota for the next turn, so they had to be really careful what they do. I try to go for Winota, opponent has another dispute, and I decide to risk if they finally find it. It didn't look like they find anything, so I just go for the attack. I put my opponent on 2 life, which means next turn, even if they do have rhinos, I still can attack for lethal possibly. So that was a very good position for me. And I think opponent conceded. Yeah. Okay. That is it. So let's watch the trophy game now. The match 5, the last game. And this was highly unlucky. I played this 4 games in a row and then played this last league later. It was the maintenance day on MTGO. So I played against Creativity with Umori deck that plays only creatures, and opponent played Creativity deck with their only target being Sarah, which enters the battlefield and names a creature, so it gets opponent and all their permanent creatures, whatever they get, protection from creatures, and I'm a Mori deck playing only creatures. I literally never played against a deck playing just Sarah as their creativity target. So I think this was like highly unlucky. Yeah. So they went for creativity there, find the Sarah's emissary, and just ended the game because I don't have a way to deal with this with the Omori deck. Even if I had the bolt in my deck, it wouldn't be helpful. So that's it. Yeah, unfortunate and bad game for me. Okay, so this was a pretty bad matchup, but I got something. I had some options, so I sideboarded in Magus of the Moons. I took out a couple of Furies and the Skrull and 1 Spiral, so sorcery speed removal is usually not that great against creativity, but they still play like Vren and Teferi, so it's not completely bad. I decide to cast my opponent's Vren 6 and get me fetch from the graveyard. This way I was able to get the planes and cast my Magus of the Moon, and which was opponent went for binding there, and this was a GG for them. I replayed the another Ragavan and the Magus, and opponent concedes, and that was the game. Pretty quick one. So I definitely had some good hit, and turn 1 Halfling or Ragavan connect into turn 2 Magus was obviously a strong play, but I decided to keep a regular decent hand, like I have option to go turn 1 Halfling or Ragavan. This time I decided to go with the Ragavan, risk the Venom 6, but I did it on purpose because I expected them to ping my Ragavan, and then I could just swing for with Mary to kill the Venom 6. My opponent was on mulligan to 5, so that seemed like a good decision to just kill the Vren and force them to ping the Ragavan. Maybe I should have. Maybe this was a mistake here, finding the planes, but opponent had 4 lands in the deck and the creativity, and yeah, basically, maybe I should have just mulliganed to the Bone Crusher or the Magus of the Moon, but it felt like I just need to try to be aggressive and also try to win with turn 3 or 3-4 turn 4 Eomer, winota, whatever. I didn't get it on time, and that was it. So lost 2 games against Ceres Emissary, which is like unbelievable and so hard, unlucky. Like, this is probably the worst thing somebody can do against this deck. It's a Mori only creatures deck, and they play Sarah Emissary as their only a creativity target, which is just never even seen this before. So that's that. Okay, the deck felt really good. I'm really excited for the Eomer. I will be further playing this deck and testing this Frodo Baggins and more sideboard options. Uh, I think prefer Solitude as a removal to the Bone Crusher. But yeah, there are some options definitely still for the main and sideboard. But at this moment, this is my favorite list, and what I got to during the gameplay and tweaking. So this is what I like the best for now, and Umori was really, really helpful in some of the games I played with this deck so far. You couldn't maybe see it. It's not every league, it's not every match, but yeah, every 5, 6 matches, even more, it's very relevant either as just another card to pitch to your force figure or endurance, but it's just a relevant body, 4-5, and the cool ability that makes your Vinotas, Furies, Eomers cost less, so you get to do sometimes some crazy turns. So yes, that's it. Okay, so um, that's it for today. If you want to help the channel, click like, click subscribe, comment in the video, and that is it for today. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.